What's going on, everybody? In this video, we're going to talk about how to sidechain in Ableton Live. This is a topic that actually comes up a lot, especially in my patron calls and production classes. Sidechaining is a topic that comes up very, very often, and we're going to take a look at how I'm at least doing it. A lot of the time, when people come to me, the way that they're sidechaining is something called volume automation, which, that's what sidechaining is, right? But they're doing it by hand. So every time, let's say, I'll take it like this. Let's say your 808 is being sidechained by your kick drum. Therefore, meaning every time the kick drum hits, your 808 is then sidechained, right? They are going in and hand doing it, piece by piece, every little part. So every time the kick hits, all right, I'm going to volume automate that. And then once they have the automations, I guess they can copy it, right? But there's an easier way, all right? And we're going to talk about that. So in Ableton Live, they have this thing called the compressor. Let's start off here. We have our little beat here. Super simple, all right? Now, we're going to be making this 808 that we bring in here. It's going to be sidechained by this kick. Every time the kick hits, the 808 is going to be sidechained. So let's go ahead and grab an 808. We're going to throw it into a sampler. It sounds good. It's not terrible with no sidechaining on it, as a matter of fact, at this point in time. But we can get it to sound crispier, okay? And we're going to go to our audio effects. We're going to drag a compressor onto the channel, all right? Once our compressor is on the channel here, it's going to look basically like this. You can choose your different activity view here. I usually like to just go with this the far left activity view. How do we get to the sidechain though? We need to expand this compressor, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to click this glowing yellow triangle here. Boom. Go ahead and click that, and it's going to expand the compressor to see these alternative functions here. You're going to see the sidechain. All right, what you're going to do is go ahead and turn that sidechain on. Now it's yellow. Go ahead and turn the EQ off for this example. We can talk about that in another video. We're not going to be using that for this example here. Now what we're going to do is going to say audio from, okay? The audio from, you're going to be selecting where do you want your sidechain signal to come from. For me, that's in the drum group, main drum channel, kick drum, all right? As that path states, that is the main drum. Once you've selected what channel it is, that's the main drums channel in the drum group here, boom. You're going to see post effects. Go ahead and click the post effects, and now this is going to go ahead and show you every single sample that's inside of this drum rack, all right? I usually like to just stick with the pre-effects setting. I don't know why, it's just what I've always done. But we're going to go ahead and find our kick drum. It's right here at the pre-effects. You're going to see high 2 kick pre-effects. Go ahead and click it. So now our sidechain is on. The signal is coming from the main drums. What specifically inside of the main drums? That's going to be our kick drum. Now we have some sidechain compression going on. And then the next thing that I like to do, change it from RMS mode to peak mode, which the peak mode, the compressor responds to short peaks within a signal, which is what I want. It works better for me. Now, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to talk about the 3 important dials here, okay? We've got ratio, attack, and release. So basically, you've got your ratio. At a 4-to-1 ratio, this is saying every time a signal is greater than 4 dB, it's going to duck it by 1, all right? I usually like to just stick this at 2-to-1. Every time a signal is over 2 dB, it ducks it by 1. And then you've got your attack, all right? Your attack is how fast does this compressor start working? So if I have a very, very long millisecond attack time, in the case of trap music or something using an 808, it's going to be like you're not compressing it at all because it's taking super long, in this case 254 milliseconds to even begin, doing its compression. Now, on the converse of that, if we have a really fast one, now it's going to do the opposite of that. It's going to start fast, and that's what we want in this case. Now let's talk about the release time, okay? The release time is how fast does an element return to its original signal after the compression is done, all right? So if I have a really long release time, in this case, the 808 is going to be compressed, and it's going to do that volume reduction, right? And it's going to stay at this reduced volume, gradually coming back up to its original volume, and it's going to take 1.54 seconds to get back to that original volume. That's useless. That's going to sound like trash, and I'm going to demonstrate that. On the converse of that, if we bring it back to have a quick release time, it's going to get back to its original volume much faster. So let's go ahead and bring this example in. Now we've got our little drum pattern here. We've got our 808s. It sounds like this. No compression yet. And you can see that there's no compression happening here because the gain reduction dial. You'll see this gain reduction knob start pounding down every time gain reduction is applied to the signal. All right, in this case, nothing's happening yet. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to set things up. All right, this is super important. Pay attention. Our attack time. In the case of, this is like a hip hoppy rap beat, trap beat, whatever. In this case, I want a very fast attack time. Not too crazy fast, but moderately fast, okay? Because when the kick hits, the kick isn't very long. The kick is punchy, it's sharp, quick, and it's out of the way, all right? When the kick hits, I want that compression to begin, all right? So I want it to be fast, and then I want it out the way. So we're going to go ahead and stick this to a 0.68 attack time. Let's talk about our release time, all right? I don't want a super long release because when the 808 hits, I don't want it to take forever to get back to its original volume. So we're going to have a pretty quick release time of about 33.9 milliseconds, all right? So that means that that compression is going to happen pretty fast with that attack, and then once that kick drum is out of the way, that signal's no longer there, then that 808 is going to rise back to its original volume expediently. But we don't want it to be so damn fast where it kind of sounds off-putting, all right? Because that can happen as well. But now let's go ahead and bring our threshold down until we start getting audible differences and or improvements, okay? So let's go ahead and play this and start bringing this down here. Let's go ahead and zoom in. Here we go. Let's do it. Now, I usually like to just go extreme and see what it sounds like. You see that? You're really getting an idea of that threshold, that infinite ratio threshold here, that infinite threshold. You were seeing that release time. Look at that. You see how long it takes to come back? It's really pronounced here because I've got this infinite threshold. But let's go ahead and I'll exaggerate that more by bringing that release time up. You see that? How slow that's bringing back? That yellow bar is showing us almost there, almost there, almost there. And now the signal is pretty much back at its original volume. That would be useless to have in a bass music song because every time the kick hits, you wouldn't have any bass. You know what I mean? So we can't have a super long release time, all right? We want it let's go 30.7 milliseconds. Right? But now the threshold's too far. So let's bring the threshold up. I usually like to stick around minus 18 to minus 35 dB for my threshold. It depends. It's going to be different from kick to kick, from 808 to 808. It just depends. You got to use your ears. So right here, we're at minus 18. I'm going to go ahead and stick it at minus 26.3 dB. That sounds good to me. Now let's talk about the attack time. As we bring the attack time up, you're going to notice we're not really getting any more gain reduction now. Minus 2 dB of gain reduction because it's taken too long to activate. Now as we bring this down, we're getting much more, minus 9.9 gain reduction, right, at a 0.29 millisecond, which actually sounds better, right? That's a really good kick drum bass relationship. And that is, I wanted to make this video because low end is so important in the song, especially in dance music, electronic music, hip hop. It's super important. And when you have a kick drum, especially in electronic music where you often have a kick drum playing alongside a heavy bass element, if those two elements are not playing in harmony, it's going to be a clear sign of a poorly mixed track, and that track is usually not going to be received very well from a sonic standpoint. So I'm making this video with an aim to improve that, show a pathway that is way more efficient than doing manual hand-in volume automation, right? You set it and you forget it with this Ableton compression method, okay? But your kick and bass relationship have to be tight. That's a clear sign. It's one of the most clear signs of a professional sounding track and a good sounding track, all right? And I wouldn't be done with this. It's a nice 808 as it is, but let's beef it up, right? Because things would be a little bit louder as they are. So let's go ahead and throw Diablo on here, and I'm going to beef this up. I'm going to go ahead and give it a little sizzle here. Give it a little bit of clip. Give it a little bit of body. A little bit of punch. And then I'm going to bring the mids down, bring the highs up, and oh yeah, that's a nice 808. Now let's play that. Oh, that kick and bass relationship is nice, but in this case, I'm going to duck that threshold down just a little bit more. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. You you can even get away. Oh yeah, see, so just playing around with that to make that a little bit tighter, quickened up that attack time and quickened up the release time a little bit, so it's just a little bit snappier. All right, but now we beefed it up, but you see it's still holding up against that kick drum. The kick drum is still holding it in place. Everything sounds like butter, baby. So that's what I'm talking about, getting that balance right. This is the Ableton Live compression method. This is how I'm doing sidechain compression. It may not always be to the kick drum, but most of the time I am sidechaining everything in my project to the kick drum, unless there's a special use case where I would do it to a hi-hat or a snare or another element. It just depends, right? But most of the time, all the main things, every time the kick drum hits, there's some level of sidechain compressioning happening to a channel or a group. All right. If you have any questions, just drop a comment down below. If there's any other videos of this production type that you want to see, just drop a comment down below and maybe you'll see it. Till next time. Boom.